I've always preferred the quiet parts of the world. That's why, when I saw the listing for a night clerk at the Ogasawara Mountain Onsen, I didn't hesitate. The pay was surprisingly high, and the duties were simple. Keep the boilers burning, sweep the cedar corridors, and brew tea for any late travelers. Master Genji, the elderly owner, didn't ask for a resume. He only looked at me with tired, watery eyes, patted my shoulder, and handed me a folded sheet of textured paper. "The mountains are old, Ran," he whispered, his voice dry like dead leaves. "We do not turn them away. We only follow the rules." Before I could ask what he meant, he gathered his coat and left, leaving me alone with the sound of the rain tapping against the glass. I sat at the reception desk, the smell of cedar wood and sulfur tea filling the small room. I unfolded the paper. Written in shaky, dark ink were 3 rules. Rule 1. Always bow low when serving tea to late guests. Keep your eyes on the floorboards. Never look directly at a guest's shadow. Rule 2. If a guest enters the outdoor bath and the steam begins to turn black, run to the boiler room and open the cold water valve immediately. Do not look into the water. Rule 3. Condensation will cover the changing room mirrors. Never wipe it away. What is on the other side of the glass does not belong to the spring. I laughed quietly, placing the paper in my vest pocket. In a place this isolated, local folklore was probably just a way to keep the night clerks awake. I brewed a pot of green tea, listening to the peaceful, rhythmic hiss of the steam boilers beneath the floorboards. At exactly 2 a.m., the heavy wooden sliding door at the entrance creaked open. Cold mountain air rushed in, carrying the scent of pine needles and damp earth. 3 tall travelers stepped into the lobby. They wore traditional, wide-brimmed straw hats and indigo cloaks that looked heavy with rain. They did not speak. They only bowed in perfect unison, a slow, mechanical movement. Remembering the first rule, I bowed low, keeping my eyes fixed on the polished pine floorboards. I led them to the resting area and brewed a fresh pot of hot tea. As I set the wooden tray down, my hand trembled slightly. They were completely silent. No breathing, no rustling of fabric. I stepped back toward the reception desk. As I passed the paper shoji screens, the warm lantern light cast my shadow clearly onto the paper. But when I looked at the wall behind the travelers, my breath caught in my throat. The light was shining directly on them, yet the paper screen behind them was blank. They cast no shadows at all. I wanted to run, but my legs felt heavy, like they were sinking into the floorboards. The tallest traveler stood up. He walked toward the back door, sliding it open to reveal the outdoor bath. The traveler stepped into the water. Almost instantly, the white steam began to curdle. It turned a dark, oily gray, then a thick, pitch black, crawling along the bamboo fences like a living thing. Rule 2. I bolted down the corridor, my socks sliding on the smooth wood. I threw open the boiler room door. I found the cold water pipe and grabbed the massive brass valve wheel. I twisted it with all my strength. The rusted metal groaned, and cold mountain water rushed into the system. As the pipes rattled, I heard a sound from the bath outside. A low, bubbling sigh that sounded like 100 voices speaking at once. I shut my eyes tight, refusing to look through the small window back at the pool. When the pipes finally grew quiet, I staggered out of the boiler room. I needed to wash the sweat from my face. I stepped into the indoor changing room. The air was thick and humid, and the large glass mirror on the wall was completely covered in a white layer of condensation. I leaned against the wash basin, trying to catch my breath. As I reached for a towel, my elbow brushed against the glass. A clean, wet streak appeared in the condensation. Rule 3. Never wipe the mirrors. My heart hammered against my ribs. I tried to look away, but my eyes were drawn to the cleared circle in the glass. In the physical room behind me, the benches were empty. The sliding door to the bath was shut. But in the reflection, the door was wide open. And standing inside the changing room, right behind my reflection, were the 3 travelers. Their cloaks were gone. Underneath, their bodies were woven from wet black roots and rotting pine wood. Their faces were smooth, featureless wooden masks, except for dozens of tiny, blinking white eyes that stared directly at my reflection. In the mirror, one of them raised a long, wooden hand and reached toward my reflection's shoulder. I did not turn around. I did not look at the mirror again. I stood completely still, staring at the blank wooden wall in front of me, forcing myself to breathe slowly. I felt a freezing, damp draft brush against the back of my neck. I felt a woody finger hover just millimeters from my shoulder. But because I didn't acknowledge them, the mirror things couldn't cross. I stood like that for hours, until the first blue rays of morning light broke through the high windows. The draft vanished. When the morning staff arrived, the onsen was empty. The teacups were clean. The outdoor bath water was crystal clear. I still worked the night shift here. I always bow low, I always keep the cold water running, and I never, ever clean the mirrors.